Hello Dragon Warriors. So today we're talking about the Tyrant Dragon and how this dragon slays your effectiveness, your impatience. So last Friday, I was winding down for the weekend, getting into a peaceful, relaxed state. I only had one more client to see, and I could suddenly see him charging down the corridor. His eyes ablaze, and he was already late for his meeting and double booked. So this is my dear client, John. He's captive to this Tyrant Dragon. Now, he's the CFO of a major company, and although he's really good at some aspects of his job, he's really not great when it comes to leading people. And like all captives to this dragon, his primary fear is the loss of time, and it drives him to impatience, with the dragon whispering that the faster he goes, the more he'll achieve. But this is the lie, because the faster he goes, the more mistakes he makes. And he's become accustomed to believing this lie. But this belief is starting to slay his critical thinking, his effective decision making. It also tends to fuel the more aggressive behaviors, which then in turn generates high levels of disengagement, resentment, and a very high staff turnover in his team. And John spends a great deal of his time planning, strategizing, worrying about things. And although he seems to be manically busy, he's not actually achieving much. So he tends to add more and more tasks to his to-do lists, but he doesn't get to complete anything. So he has this whole list of unfinished activities. Even worse, he draws up these endless task lists for his teams, and then he expects them to deliver all of this by the end of the day. So then he places all this pressure on his team, and then they're constantly feeling stressed and overwhelmed by the amount of work they're needing to do. They're often working overtime, and then that exacerbates their stress levels. He doesn't have a happy team. And to make matters even worse, he procrastinates. He believes that he works well under pressure, but this is another lie and strategy that this dragon loves to deploy. So as he's coming up to deadlines and he's under pressure to get things done, his anxiety now becomes intensified. And although he delivers, he rarely produces anything that's actually noteworthy. And his greatest loss is actually his loss of potential. And John has his mind set on becoming CEO. So all his actions are directed to getting him there. When huge projects are completed and they reach these amazing milestones, he doesn't celebrate them, he doesn't congratulate his team or give them any encouragement. He's immediately on to the next project and on this mission to make CEO. But he's rushing through life and he doesn't actually enjoy anything that he's doing. And in his rush to complete things, he talks fast, he leaves out important information when giving instructions, and he assumes that everybody's on the same page. So victims to this dragon often have very analytical minds. They can see trends. They can join dots very quickly. But when they're giving instructions, they move from point A to point Z. And in their minds, and he doesn't have much success on the family front either. So when he gets home in the evenings, he feels anxious and stressed. His mind is always switched on. He's focusing on work and all the things that he needs to be doing. So he rarely relaxes. He feels guilty when he's playing with his kids or watching TV, believing he should be working. When he's working, he's feeling guilty that he's not at home with his family. Doesn't sleep well at night. Most of his energy is actually expended over planning and worrying. And in one incident, the anxiety built up so much that in a meeting with the leadership team, he exploded and he shouted very disrespectfully at one of the board members, blaming him for all their problems. And once he had calmed down, he deeply regretted his outburst and his behavior. And then he realized in the midst of a disciplinary hearing, he needed to do something urgently. And he realized that he needed to free himself from his suffering and take accountability for himself and his situation by dismantling the dragon and time as his master. And what I find with most of the leaders I coach is that they're performing a very delicate balancing act. So they need to be focusing simultaneously on growing themselves and the organization whilst also growing others. So to this end, they need to be both visionary and they need to be collaborative. So they need to be creating the vision, setting the direction, and then collaborating with others to make it all happen. Then patience kills both. So John needed to shift away from his dragon and into his warrior, whereby he had a clear vision of what he was wanting to achieve, and then he could rally the resources, collaborate, and then develop his team to make things happen, whilst also exuding this calm confidence and strength. So David Sluss found through his research that when leaders demonstrate patience, it increases their creativity and their collaboration by 16%, and it increases their productivity by 13%. So how do we then tame this dragon and shift into our inner warrior? So step 1 is recognize when the dragon is in play. Become aware of your triggers and specifically the lies that you tell yourself. And then also start to challenge your thinking. Treat each thought as a hypothesis. So ask yourself, is this thought really true? Is time really running out? Is everything really urgent? Do I really work well under pressure? Next step for these victims to this particular dragon is to slow down. Really, it's one of the most important things for this particular dragon. And I would recommend meditation because it's an amazing way to tame this dragon. But if this dragon is really strong, you're going to struggle to sit down for long periods of time. So one of the most effective practices for taming this dragon is through Tai Chi, because this is where you can experience that stillness in motion, calm your body, and achieve that laser focused mind. Then the third step is to play. As my friend Charlie Hoon endorses in his book, Play It Away, A Workaholic's Guide to Anxiety, the power of play is a powerful way to break free from impatience and anxiety and connect back to your imagination and creativity. And then the fourth recommendation I would make is work with a coach, because a coach can empower you to see your patterns or your templates of thinking, feeling, and behaving. They can help you to unravel those quickly and then replace those with more empowering patterns. Well, what I can tell you with absolute certainty is that leaders who tame this dragon display more confidence, have far more patience, they're less controlling, they're focused on developing and empowering their teams, which then has extraordinary results and massive impact. And if you'd like to know more on how to tame this dragon, you know where to find me.